Nothing feels wrong, yet nothing feels real anymore. You still wake up in the same bed. You still drive the same roads. You still answer emails, pay bills, smile at coworkers. From the outside, nothing has changed. But inside, something feels subtly off. It's not dramatic. It's not painful in the way people expect pain to look like. It's quieter than that. Life feels slightly unreal, like you're watching yourself live it instead of being in it. Like the world lost a layer of depth you can't quite name. You talk to friends and the words land, but they don't reach you. You go to places you once loved and they feel strangely hollow. Even joy shows up, but it doesn't stay. And the most unsettling part? Nothing is obviously wrong. So you start questioning yourself. Am I depressed? Am I dissociating? Did I break something inside my mind? Let me say this clearly, before your thoughts spiral any further. You're not depressed. You're not losing your sanity. And you're probably not awakening the wrong way. What you're experiencing has a name. And more importantly, it has a pattern. But this video isn't here to rush you into clarity. It's not going to hand you techniques, affirmations, or ways to fix this feeling. Because trying to fix it too early is often what makes it last longer. Instead, we're going to slow down. We're going to look at why this strange phase appears right after awakening, why Carl Jung warned about this exact moment, and why so many people quietly pass through it without anyone ever talking about it out loud. If you've been wondering whether something is wrong with you, stay. What you're feeling might not be a breakdown at all. It might be the moment your old sense of reality can no longer hold who you're becoming. Why does life suddenly feel like a movie you're watching, not living? At first, it's subtle, almost easy to dismiss. Colors look slightly washed out, not gray, just thinner, like someone turned the saturation down by 5%. Conversations keep happening, but they feel scripted. People say the right things, you respond with the right words. Yet something essential doesn't land. Even time starts behaving strangely. Some days stretch endlessly. Other days vanish without a trace. You look back and think, where did it go? This is what many people describe as the uncanny phase of spiritual awakening. Everything is familiar, yet strangely foreign. And that's what makes it unsettling. Because when something is obviously wrong, you know how to react. But when everything looks fine, you start turning the doubt inward. Many people say things like, I feel like I'm behind glass. Everything feels staged. It's like I'm slightly outside my own life. Here's what's important to understand. This isn't you disconnecting from reality. It's closer to jet lag of consciousness. Your body is still here. Your life is still running. But your inner orientation has shifted faster than your nervous system can catch up. Some people compare it to derealization. And yes, the sensation can feel similar. But there's a crucial difference. Pathological derealization comes from fear and shutdown. This uncanny phase comes from expansion without a new center yet. Nothing is broken, nothing is malfunctioning. Your mind just lost its old reference point. And in modern culture, especially American culture, this phase can feel even more intense. We already live inside screens, inside algorithms, inside curated identities and simulated connection. Add burnout, add AI, add social media that trains you to perform instead of inhabit your life. So when awakening loosens your identification with roles and stories, the world can suddenly feel artificial, like you're seeing the stage instead of the play. But here's the insight most people miss. You didn't leave reality, you left the old way you were relating to it. Reality hasn't changed, your relationship to it has. And that gap, that strange, quiet distance isn't a mistake. It's a transition, a threshold. Before a new way of experiencing life can form, the old one has to dissolve. And when it dissolves, it doesn't disappear dramatically. It fades, which is why this stage feels confusing instead of catastrophic, and why so many people think something is wrong, when in fact something very precise is happening. Because once the ego is no longer at the center of your experience, the question becomes, what is? And that's where the real disorientation begins. Carl Jung warned, the most dangerous moment isn't breakdown, it's recentering. Before awakening, life usually feels directed. Not necessarily happy, not always meaningful, but oriented. There's a sense of me at the center of things. You know who you are, or at least you know who you're supposed to be. Your job gives you structure. Your goals give you direction. Your identity, parent, partner, achiever, seeker, tells you how to move through the world. In Jungian terms, the ego sits at the center of consciousness. It organizes experience. It filters reality. It answers the question, who am I in this situation? And then awakening happens. Not all at once, not like a lightning strike, but slowly enough that one day you notice something strange. The ego isn't driving anymore. The old motivations don't pull you the way they used to. The goals that once felt urgent now feel distant. Even ambition starts to feel oddly hollow. And this is where the real confusion begins. Because the ego has stepped aside, but the self, the deeper organizing center Jung wrote about, hasn't fully stabilized yet. So a gap opens, a psychological no man's land. Imagine you're driving on a highway. For years, the GPS has been on, autopilot engaged. You didn't have to think much, just follow the directions. Then suddenly, the GPS shuts off, autopilot disengages. But no one taught you how to drive by feel yet. That's this stage. Most people panic here. They think I'm regressing, I lost my motivation, I was more functional before. But this isn't regression. It's recentering in progress. You didn't lose your drive. You lost the old engine. Jung was very clear about this. The ego doesn't die during awakening. It doesn't get destroyed or erased. It steps aside. And when it does, it can feel terrifying, because the ego was never just your identity. It was your compass. Without it, you feel unmoored. People describe this stage as floating without direction, feeling neutral about everything, not knowing what they want anymore. And here's the crucial mistake: trying to force a new identity too quickly, becoming the spiritual one. Chasing a higher purpose, grabbing onto new labels to replace the old ones. That only recreates the ego in a new costume. This stage isn't asking you to decide who you are. It's asking you to tolerate not knowing. Because something deeper is beginning to organize your life, but it doesn't speak in goals or titles. It speaks in resonance, in alignment, in subtle signals you haven't learned to trust yet. And that's why the next phase feels even more unsettling. Because when the ego is no longer running the show, the meanings you built your life around begin to collapse. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Why do things that once mattered suddenly feel empty? This is the point where many people think they've gone too far. Because once the ego steps aside, meaning doesn't rush in to replace it. It leaves. Awakening doesn't immediately add purpose to your life. It subtracts borrowed ones. The meanings you once lived by start to feel thin. Success that was fueled by recognition. Happiness that existed to prove something. Even spirituality, when it was about being more evolved or more awake than others. These meanings don't explode. They quietly lose their grip. And in American culture, this collapse hits especially hard. You can be making great money, 6 figures, a respected title, a career people admire, and still wake up with a hollow feeling you can't explain. Nothing is technically wrong. Your job is stable. Your relationship is healthy. Your life looks good from the outside, but inside it feels dead. Not painful, not tragic, just empty. Many people say their relationships change during this phase. Not because there's conflict, not because love disappeared, but because the energy is gone. The conversations repeat themselves. The future plans feel scripted. The connection exists, but it doesn't feel alive anymore. Achievement culture is usually the first thing to collapse. Because once you're no longer building your life to impress the ego, there's nothing left to perform for. And that's when panic sets in. People rush to label what's happening. I'm depressed. I ruined my life. I should be grateful. Why do I feel nothing? Here's the mistake. Depression is a shutdown. This is a withdrawal. Meaning hasn't disappeared. It has pulled back, like a tide retreating before it reshapes the shoreline. The old meanings were loud. They demanded action. They shouted instructions. The real ones don't do that. They whisper. They wait. They require space to emerge. This stage isn't asking you to find meaning. It's asking you to stop clinging to meaning that was never truly yours. And that's uncomfortable, Because borrowed meaning gives structure, direction, and reassurance. Real meaning doesn't arrive with a plan. It arrives as a felt sense, a quiet yes in the body, a subtle pull you can't justify logically. And until you learn how to listen to that, life can feel strangely flat. This is why so many people mistake awakening for nihilism. But nihilism says nothing matters. Awakening says what mattered before can no longer matter in the same way. And this loss of meaning sets the stage for the next, deeper challenge. Because when nothing outside seems to anchor you anymore, the loneliness begins to surface. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being out of sync with the world around you. Why do you feel alone, even around people who love you? This is one of the most confusing parts of awakening. Because you're not isolated. You still have friends, family, people who care about you. Yet when you're with them, something feels missing. You listen to conversations and notice yourself nodding, smiling, responding, but not arriving. You're present in body, absent in resonance. Carl Jung made a distinction that most people miss. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the absence of meaningful contact. And after awakening, your inner frequency changes. You're no longer reacting automatically through social roles. You don't perform enthusiasm on cue. You don't fill silence just to keep things comfortable. Small talk starts to feel heavy. Repetition feels draining. Even humor can feel flat. So a gap appears. Not because you're superior, not because others are asleep, but because you're no longer tuned to the same channel. It's like changing the frequency on a radio. You've adjusted the dial, but the world around you is still broadcasting the old station. And in that mismatch, loneliness emerges. Many people misinterpret this moment. They think they're becoming antisocial, detached, cold. So they try to fix it. They force themselves to be normal again. They say yes to plans they don't feel. They over-socialize to drown out the discomfort. But that only deepens the disconnection. Because this loneliness isn't asking for more people, it's asking for truthful contact. Jung observed that after profound inner shifts, many individuals entered a phase of what he called necessary withdrawal. Not isolation as pathology, but withdrawal as integration. A pause, a recalibration. Your psyche is reorganizing itself. Your nervous system is learning a new baseline. Your sense of self is detaching from the collective script. And that process requires space. Think of it like learning a new language. At first, you can't translate quickly enough to keep up with conversation. You hear the words, but the meaning lags behind. So you withdraw. Not because you don't care, but because you're learning how to listen differently. Here's the quiet lesson of this stage. You don't need to eliminate loneliness. You need to understand what kind it is. This is not the loneliness of abandonment. It's the loneliness of transition, of being between worlds, between the person you were and the one you haven't fully become yet. And until that new self stabilizes, connection will feel rare. But that doesn't mean it's gone. It means your system is detoxing from superficial connection, so that when real resonance appears, you'll recognize it immediately. And that brings us to the final and most counterintuitive part of this journey. Because the more you try to escape this phase, the longer it tends to stay. The faster you try to escape this feeling, the longer it stays. This is where the ego makes its final, most subtle move. Because even after awakening, the ego doesn't disappear. It just changes strategy. It looks at the confusion, the emptiness, the loneliness, and says, okay, let's reset. Let's figure this out. Let's become someone new. A spiritual person, a healed person, someone who has answers. But here's the paradox. Every label you rush toward right now is the ego trying to reinstall itself at the center. A new identity, a new story, a new sense of control. Just wearing different clothes. This is why so many people get stuck here. They read more books, watch more videos, collect more concepts. Not to deepen understanding, but to escape the discomfort of not knowing. Yet this stage isn't a problem to solve. It's a threshold. Think of a snake shedding its skin. The old skin loosens, splits, falls away. But the new skin underneath isn't hardened yet. It's sensitive, raw, exposed. If you touch it too soon, if you try to force movement, it hurts. So the snake stays still, hidden, vulnerable, uncertain. Not because it's weak, but because it's becoming. This is exactly what's happening to you. Confusion doesn't mean you failed awakening. Disorientation doesn't mean you're losing your mind. It means the old structure has dissolved and the new one hasn't crystallized yet. And that in-between state feels unbearable to the ego. Because the ego survives on clarity, certainty, and direction. But the deeper self doesn't emerge through force. It emerges through allowance, through patience, through silence, through staying with the unknown without trying to dominate it. This is why every attempt to fix this phase tends to backfire. You can't think your way out of it. You can't label your way through it. You can't spiritualize it into submission. The only thing that actually moves this stage forward is letting it do what it was designed to do, which is strip away false certainty until something more honest can take its place. Not knowing is not a mistake. It's not laziness. It's not confusion gone wrong. It's a passage, a crossing. And passages, by nature, are uncomfortable places to linger. But rushing through them doesn't make them shorter. It just makes them harder. And this brings us to the final realization. Because if nothing feels real right now, it might not be because you're lost. It might be because you're standing at the edge of a way of being that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. And that's where this story doesn't end, but opens. Maybe nothing feels real because the old version of reality can no longer hold you. Not because you broke something. Not because you went too far. Not because you misunderstood awakening. But because the way you used to relate to life no longer fits. You don't snap back after this. You don't return to the same ambitions, the same emotional reflexes, the same automatic sense of meaning. But you also don't need to know who you're becoming yet. This phase isn't asking for clarity. It's asking for honesty. For the courage to admit, I don't know what this is, I don't know where this leads, and I'm still here. That's harder than it sounds, because the mind wants resolution. The ego wants a story. The culture wants a before and after arc. But awakening doesn't always give you that. Sometimes it leaves you here, between identities, between meanings, between worlds. The strangest phase of awakening is not bliss. It's not peace. It's not enlightenment. It's disorientation. When life feels thinner, quieter, less dramatic, and more real in a way you can't explain. And if you're in that space right now, there may be nothing to fix, only something to live through. Something to let shape you without rushing to name it. If this resonated, let me know in the comments. Does reality feel thinner for you lately, or quieter? And if you want to keep exploring these in-between spaces, not with answers, but with clarity about the questions, you can subscribe. No pressure, no promises. Just a place to sit while the old maps stop working and the new ones haven't appeared yet.